said, the court answered only the first question, but even then...
And they answered the first question. What was the response?
I'll read it.
Okay.
For the benefit of your listeners. At page 51 of the judgment, this is what the Constitutional Court is saying. Before we proceed to consider the question posed above, we note that although the applicants argued in their submission that this matter has been brought pursuant to Article 128(1)(a), which gives this court jurisdiction to interpret constitutional provisions, the manner the above question has been couched personalizes the issue in that it targets the incumbent president as an individual. Okay? This is what the Constitutional Court is saying. They go on. We do not encourage this trend. They disagreed. They're basically saying, listen, don't come to us and talk to us about a person. We're not interested in the person. We're interested in the law. We don't want to talk about Edgar Lungu. This is what the Constitutional Court is saying. We do not encourage this trend because the framing of the questions for this court's interpretation of constitutional provision should not target any individual as it is meant for the general application, as the interpretation is binding on every person in the Republic. What we are dealing with in the present case is the office of president. We of course understand that what the question is, or what it ought to have been, and what it aims at, namely the office of president. The question, therefore, ought to have been framed as follows. You understand? The court rejected the way the question was framed.
And they reframed it.
And they reframed it. They said, whether in terms of Article 106(3) and 6, a presidential term of office that ran from
the
25th of January to 13th September and straddled two constitutional regimes can or should be considered as a full term. Let me pause there.
Which was my question earlier on.
Let me pause there.
Yeah.
This is a problem.
Yeah.
Okay? This is a court misbehaving. Okay? The court has no power to change the question that has been presented to it. Okay? Because the court must be independent and impartial. You decide the case in the manner I have framed it. Okay? Now, what the court is saying and what President Lungu's lawyers were saying in question 1 are two different things. Okay? Nobody has ever argued that the period between 25th January 2015 to September 2016 constitutes a full term. Okay? Nobody has ever argued that. You know it's only 20 months, so how can it be a full term? This has never been a contested issue. Okay? So you have a critical question that has been posed, but it has been reframed by the court, wrongly so. Okay? So now, these are issues that need careful consideration. The question is, does the court have the power to change my case? No, the court has no power to change my case. Lungu's lawyers are saying something else, the court is saying something else. Now, having said that, nothing stops the court from saying, gentlemen, you the lawyers from both parties, come before us. We have looked at your question. We don't think at all your question makes sense. We would like this question reframed, right? The lawyer for the other side is there, the other side is there. We believe as a court, this question ought to read like this. Then the court should now invite the parties to address them on the new question as framed. Neither Lungu's lawyers, now those on the other side, ever addressed the Constitutional Court on this issue.
On the reframed question?
On the reframed issue.
Okay.
This was something that the court concocted on its own, which was wrong. They should not have done that. And if they had, what they should have done is to invite the parties back, to say, guys, we have looked at the case, we have looked at this thing. In the process of us writing our judgment, we believe that the way you have framed it is wrong. We think the real issue should be this. Can you address that on that?
In your entire time in court as a lawyer, no court has ever reframed your question. Without a consultation?
Never.
Okay.
Never. That's lawlessness.
Okay.
Complete lawlessness. Because the problem I'll have is, why are you changing somebody's question? Then I'm going to accuse you of bias. That's judicial bias. You have no right. Okay? Now, the person, that is why the court needs to invite both parties to say, guys, this is how we think the question ought to be. Then the other party may say, no, my lord, I insist my question should be the way it is framed. Or he can say, I agree. And the other party will say, no, my lord, you cannot frame it this way. We'll go back and forth until we agree on a common question. To say, this is the issue we are now inviting the court to adjudicate on. Now, this never happened in this case. Neither President Lungu's lawyers ever addressed it. This was not their question. If you read this question and the other question, are two different questions altogether. This is not a contested issue. It can't be an issue. Nobody has ever said whether the period served here is 2 terms. No, or qualifies as a full term. No. But in any case, there is no full term in sub-article 3. Or what article 1, sub-article 3 saying you have held office for twice. That's all. So where's the full term coming from? Okay? This was a redundant exercise. Okay? This is question 1. What did the court do on the question 2, which is the most important question, which was posed, whether President Lungu was eligible to stand in 2021? This is what the Constitutional Court said. At page 83 of the judgment, it says, as regards the second question posed in the amended originating summons, which is whether the incumbent president is eligible for election as president in 2021 presidential election, our view is that in the light of the position we have taken as regards the first question posed in the amended originating summons, the second question has become odious and we shall not consider it. That's what the Constitution Court said. So where did they say that is eligible? Because the court refused to consider that particular question. Okay? So the Constitutional Court has never declared that President Lungu is eligible to stand for 2021. They declined because they said this does not amount to interpretation of the Constitution. We cannot begin to deal with individuals. We deal with the interpretation of the law. Since we have taken the view that we should be interpreting the law and not dealing with the individual, we will not consider the second question.
Even though they reframed the question. Because isn't that the reason why they reframed the question?
They reframed
the question because they were concerned that you were dealing with individuals.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this was even more pronounced. The second question, they refused. Okay? Bottom line is that the second question was never considered. Okay? It's very clear to say the second question has become irrelevant and we shall not consider it. You get the point? So when the court says we will not consider it because it is irrelevant, that doesn't mean that we're endorsing your position that one is eligible to contest.
Can I take you back to what the first question was?
Yes.
Because it says, I'm just reading it as it is, regards the second question posed, whether or not the incumbent president is eligible for election as president, our view is that in light of the position we've taken as regards the first question posed. Yes. What was the response to the first question that was posed? Does that help in understanding why the second question?
No, it doesn't help.
Okay.
Because they are saying, they concluded that the period